Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out that everything you know about human evolution is, well, essentially backward.
Right, like totally flipped upside down.
Yeah, like that life on Earth actually existed long before the moon was even in the sky.
Which just sounds crazy at first.
It sounds like pure science fiction, you know?
Yeah.
But today we are unpacking a framework that argues exactly that and a whole lot more.
So much more.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're looking at a 47-year intellectual journey by a single author. It's this massive stack of notes, philosophical dialogues, and what really boils down to a literal theory of everything.
Yeah, it's incredibly ambitious.
It really is, and it's built on this quadrology of concepts. So that's NKE, SBT, WaF, and KLAS.
And, you know, it is a dense, fascinating journey.
Yeah.
But before we get into, like, alternative timelines of the universe, we have to establish the single most important ground rule for this deep dive.
Right. The author was super strict about this in the notes.
Exactly. The author is absolutely adamant that to understand this material, you cannot mix up the different levels of emergence.
Okay, so what does levels of emergence actually mean in plain English?
Well, think about a digital photograph on your computer. Like, say, a picture of a bustling city street.
Okay, got it.
If you zoom all the way in, you just see tiny individual colored squares.
Right.
Right? Pixels.
Just raw pixels.
Right. And it would be totally absurd to point at a single red pixel and say, wow, that pixel looks like it's in a rush to get to work.
Because a pixel doesn't have a commute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you confuse the fundamental building blocks with the complex reality that emerges from them, the whole picture just falls apart.
So we basically have to look at the foundational physics, the biological evolution, the personal psychology, and, you know, the societal implications as completely distinct layers.
You can't put them all in one pot.
We can't judge the physics using human psychology, and we can't judge society using raw physics.
Precisely. And if we keep those levels of emergence distinct, the author claims this framework offers roughly 10 genuinely revolutionary insights.
10 paradigm shifts.
Yeah, paradigm shifts that completely rewrite how we view reality.
And I promise you listening, if you stick with us through these layers, you aren't just going to learn about some abstract cosmology.
No, definitely not.
By the end of this, you're going to discover a highly practical blueprint for ultimate personal independence. We're going to unpack why building a so-called moat around your life is far superior to living like a minimalist hermit.
But to get there, we really have to start at the very bottom layer.
The pixels, the physics.
Right. And that starts with the first pillar of the quadrology, NKE.
Which stands for Nichts-Kruste-Etwas.
Yeah, which translates from German to Nothing-Crust-Something. This is what the author describes as the base ontology of the universe.
The absolute description of the process that keeps our world running. I struggled with this a bit in the notes, actually.
It's definitely heavy.
The author calls it a relativity theory on steroids, but the core definition is just everything is just structure in nothingness, and structure interacts with structure.
Right.
So how does that actually work? Are we just talking about, like, empty space?
No, and this is where it requires a huge conceptual leap.
Right.
You can't think of empty space with floating atoms.
Okay.
Imagine a three-dimensional grid where the nodes, the structure, can only interact with adjacent nodes.
So they have to be touching.
Exactly. There is no magical, spooky action at a distance. There are no mysterious, invisible forces. There is only direct physical contact. Structure touching structure.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. If it's just structure touching structure, where did the first structure even come from?
Well, that's the big question, right?
Yeah, it feels like we're about to run into the old who created the creator problem.
But that is exactly the problem NKE claims to solve. It proposes a logically correct closed loop.
So no external creator.
No external creator required. And no mysterious Big Bang from a singularity either. It is an eternal process of structural emergence without any preconditions.
It's a completely self-sustaining engine.
Yes, exactly.
But hold on. If NKE is just this raw underlying physics, like the raw code of the universe, how do we get from a grid of structures to actual planets and stars?
And that brings us up exactly one level of emergence.
To the second pillar.
Right, SBT, or the small bang theory.
So if NKE is the fundamental operating system, SBT is the specific software program that boots up.
That's a great analogy, yeah. into the normal structure-building process of the universe that, when conditions are right, leads to the formation of suns, planets, life, and moons.
And the author suggests this same mechanism scales up to form entire galaxies, too.
Right, it's a scalable process.
And this is where we hit one of those revolutionary insights you mentioned earlier, because the source material drops a highly specific, incredibly controversial evolutionary sequence.
Oh yeah, it really goes against the grain here.
The author argues that the universe builds in this exact order: sun, earth, life, moon.
That is the sequence, yes. Sun, Earth, life, moon.
Wait, let me challenge that. Life and then the moon.
Yeah.
How is that even physically possible? I mean, every biology textbook says tidal forces, which come from the moon's gravitational pull, were absolutely necessary to churn the primordial soup and spark early life.
That is the standard consensus, right?
So if there's no moon, how does life start?
It's a massive paradigm shift.
Yep.
The author's SBT framework proposes that life originated under completely different atmospheric and gravitational conditions than we have today.
Oh, interesting.
The argument is that early Earth didn't need leaner tides because the atmospheric density, geothermal activity, and rotational dynamics provided a completely different kind of incubator.
So it was just a different environment altogether.
Exactly. The moon's arrival, or its formation, happened much later. And that fundamentally altered the planet's gravity and atmosphere.
Which actually forced life to adapt to the new, harsher reality we see now.
Right. So the moon wasn't the catalyst for life. It was a massive disruption to an already thriving biological process.
Wow. That completely flips standard cosmology on its head.
It really does.
But, it raises a massive question for me. If this closed-loop universe of NKE and this cosmological sequence of SBT is so blatantly logical to the author after 47 years of research...
Why doesn't everyone else see it?
Right. Why isn't this mainstream science? Why isn't this on the cover of every scientific journal tomorrow?
And answering that question requires us to jump up to the next level of emergence.
Wow.
We've left cosmology entirely. We are now looking at human cognition.
The brain.
The brain. This is the third pillar of the Quadrology WaF,
Right.
which stands for Wahrheit all, fundament, or truth is foundation.
Right, because the notes detail how our brains are fundamentally, lazy. We rely super heavily on intuitive automatic thinking.
What psychologists call System 1.
Exactly.
Our brains absolutely love System 1 because it's energetically cheap. It relies on established associations, comfortable worldviews, and, group consensus.
And to actually engage System 2 to critically analyze, dismantle, and rewire those deep-seated neural pathways, that requires a massive amount of physical energy.
It literally burns calories.
And it causes emotional strain. The sources are very clear on this. If a human brain doesn't see a clear, immediate advantage to rewiring its worldview.
Or if it fears losing social status.
Right. If it fears that accepting a new truth will make them an outcast at dinner parties, it simply cannot and will not process paradigm shift information.
It's not just people being stubborn.
Their biology is actively blocking the high-cost restructuring.
Which is exactly why WaF truth, as foundation, is the only way the human brain can actually find objective reality. WaF is essentially a deliberate conscious hacking of the brain's reward structure.
I love this part. Think about the last time you, listening right now, lost an argument but refused to admit it because it just felt terrible.
We've all been there.
Right. Your brain was interpreting being wrong as a literal threat, but the author says you can change that chemical game.
You can rewrite the rules.
If you make the relentless will to seek the truth, your core identity, your brain starts using the emotional grounding of a dopamine rush during the search.
And a serotonin release upon the actual discovery of truth.
Exactly. Even if that truth proves you wrong, you still get the serotonin hit from the discovery itself.
And that chemical reward gives your cells the biological energy to constantly rethink, dismantle, and rebuild your worldview without suffering a total ego collapse.
What really blew my mind in the notes was how the author categorizes this drive. They lay out 4 escalating types of human will.
Yeah, this is a great breakdown.
You start at the baseline with Schopenhauer's concept of the blind will to survive, just basic biology, eating, and reproducing.
Then you step up to Nietzsche's will to power.
The desire to assert dominance and control others, right. But then the author introduces Meyer's recursive will, the drive to use your actual skills to shape your environment.
That third stage, the will to use skills, is crucial. It represents conscious, active engagement with the physical world rather than just dominating people.
And it sets up the final stage. The author tops it all off with the ultimate stage, which is the will to truth, or WaF.
Right.
So, okay, let's recap where we are. We've gone from the raw physics of NKE to the planetary building of SBT to hacking our brain's truth-seeking engine with WaF.
Which brings us to the most practical level of emergence.
Yeah, because if you've hacked your brain to accept truth, what does a random Tuesday morning actually look like? How does a conscious person live in the real world?
And this is the final pillar of the Quadrology, KLAS. It's an acronym that stands for Camel, Low, Adler, Schildkröte.
So camel, lion, eagle, turtle.
Exactly. It is the author's developmental model for a consciously lived, meaningful life.
Break those stages down for us, because it sounds a bit like an old fable, but it's actually highly tactical.
It maps the evolution of an individual. You start out as the camel.
Okay.
The camel bears the burdens of society. You go to school, you get a regular job, you carry the weight of expectations, you pay your taxes, follow all the rules.
The standard path.
Right. But eventually, the conscious mind realizes the weight is absurd. And that triggers the transformation into the lion.
The lion rebels.
Yes. The lion fights for freedom. It actively rejects the systemic burdens and carves out its own territory.
But then?
Once that territory is secured, you become the eagle. You're soaring above, seeing the big picture, the true patterns of reality clearly.
And finally, the turtle.
Finally, after a life of striving and seeing, you achieve the grounded, armored wisdom of the turtle. You are protected, steady, and totally at peace with reality.
But transitioning from the camel to the lion, actually achieving that independence, is incredibly hard.
Extremely hard.
The sources present this fascinating debate on how to actually secure that freedom. On one side, you have the path of Diogenes.
The ancient Greek philosopher.
Right, the guy who lived in a barrel and owned absolutely nothing. The logic is simple, right? If you have zero possessions, you have zero attachments. Society can't blackmail you if they have nothing to take away.
It's radical minimalism, outer freedom through total reduction.
But the author strongly critiques the Diogenes model.
Because Diogenes fundamentally lacks skin in the game.
Yes, exactly.
If you retreat from society completely, if you own nothing, build nothing, and care for nothing, your philosophy just becomes sterile.
You lose touch with the very physical reality you were trying to understand in the first place.
Right. A true philosopher, in this framework, must be active in the world. They must take risks. Telling the harsh truth is infinitely more valuable when you actually have something to lose. Relationships, status, money. But you choose to speak the truth anyway.
And you can only survive doing that if you choose the second path, the Berg-Robin path.
The moat.
The moat. Instead of owning nothing, you build a massive, diversified defense around your life. You cultivate multiple income streams, you master a wide variety of physical skills, and you build a tight network of genuine relationships.
So if one income stream dries up because you refuse to compromise your values, your other skills keep you fed.
Right. And if you are canceled by a social group for speaking the truth, your diversified network keeps you standing.
Your moat actively protects your independence.
Which really begs the question for you listening right now. Think about your own life. Are you trying to find peace by minimizing your life and hiding from the world? Or are you actively building a moat?
A robust portfolio of skills and options that allows you to stand firm.
Because, according to the author, building that moat is the only way to survive their assessment of our current society.
Yeah, and this is where it gets pretty intense.
It does. Now, the author takes a really sharp, uncompromising look at modern democracies here. And just to be clear to you listening, we're just mapping out the author's architecture objectively. We're not taking a left-wing or right-wing side here.
We're just neutral guides to the source material.
Exactly. But the critique they level is fascinating. They argue that modern Western wealth is essentially an illusion, heavily reliant on systemic exploitation.
The author describes modern society as a sort of Truman Show.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
It's an artificial, highly bureaucratic reality maintained by a complacent voting public who just prefer the comfort of the collective over the harsh, demanding reality of the truth.
There's a super striking metaphor in the notes. The author compares the productive, capable individuals in society to hardworking songbirds.
Okay, yeah.
And these songbirds are working themselves to death to feed giant, demanding cuckoo chicks that have been placed in their nest.
The kuckuckskuchen.
Right. The cuckoo chicks represent the bloated, unproductive elements of the system. Specifically, an apparatus of state bureaucrats who desperately cling to comfortable, abstract jobs.
Just draining the energy of the productive minority.
So how does the individual with a strong moat escape this Truman Show?
Well, the author definitely doesn't advocate for some bloody political revolution.
No, they view that as a massive waste of energy.
The actual solution is what they call a self-orchestrated Morgenthau plan.
And just to be clear, this isn't a top-down government policy. This is about extreme skill-based individuation.
Right. The goal isn't to push humanity into some highly automated, AI-driven utopia. It's actually the exact opposite.
It's a conscious return to physical, meaningful work.
High-level regional crafts, farming, forestry, the psychological mechanism here is key.
Because in the past, highly specialized physical trades allowed people to become distinct, irreplaceable individuals.
The master blacksmith or a miller had power because they had absolute mastery over their physical environment. Today, abstract spreadsheet jobs make people feel entirely replaceable and, completely alienated from the results of their labor.
The author paints this ideal picture of the Tuscan winemaker.
That's my favorite part.
Right. Someone who works hard physically during the day. They have an intimate understanding of their soil and their local customers. And then at night, with the tired body but a sharp mind, they sit on the piazza and philosophize.
They have completely bypassed the bureaucratic state.
Because, as the author explicitly writes, exercise skills are central to a meaningful life.
But, how does a modern listener, say someone trapped in one of those abstract office jobs, actually apply this?
I mean, you don't have to quit your job tomorrow and buy a vineyard in Italy.
Right. Building a Morgenthau lifestyle is about incrementally constructing your moat. It's starting a side business that you completely control.
It's learning a tangible physical craft on the weekends. It's sourcing your food locally.
By building parallel regional structures, you slowly starve the bureaucratic system of your energy.
You essentially opt out of the Truman Show by making yourself physically and economically undeniable.
Exactly.
So looking at the big picture, this entire quadrology, NKE, SBT, WaF, KLAS, isn't just a philosophy to ponder in your armchair. The author actually views this as an enabling meta-platform.
The potential applications are honestly staggering. Take the scientific implications, for instance.
Okay, let's look at those.
If the foundational ontology of NKE is true, that the universe is purely structure-touching structure, places like CERN could design entirely new physics experiments.
Instead of just smashing particles apart to find smaller pieces.
Right. They could design collision experiments focused on understanding the mechanics of structural emergence.
And if SBT is correct, that life predates the moon, every textbook on geology and biology has to be rewritten.
Completely.
But it also applies to the modern tech and startup ecosystem, right? The sources mention using this framework to actually build commercial tools.
Exactly. Imagine a cognitive AI tool functioning as a WaF filter.
A truth as foundation filter.
Yeah. Software designed to scan business plans or media narratives, specifically trained to expose logical flaws, metaphysical excuses, and System 1 laziness.
It would force organizations to confront reality based entirely on truth.
Or think about decentralized logistics platforms designed to help people build their regional Morgenthau networks.
Connecting the modern Tuscan winemaker directly with their community, completely bypassing global corporate infrastructure.
It is a comprehensive blueprint. But, and this is important, the author realistically estimates that only a tiny fraction of people, perhaps 0.2% to 5%, actually possess the discipline to build this true independence.
So it's not for everyone.
It is a demanding framework for those who can withstand reality without retreating into comfortable illusions.
It is heavy, but it's incredibly cohesive when you step back. Today, we've journeyed through distinct, unmixed layers of reality.
All four pillars.
We started at the fundamental physics of NKE structure interacting with structure. Then we moved up to SBT, the cosmological timeline of planets and life.
Then we stepped into human cognition with war, literally rewiring our brains to seek truth.
And finally, we explored the societal level with KLAS, building a moat of exercise skills to escape the bureaucratic illusion.
It's a roadmap from the fundamental pixels of the universe straight up to the reality of your daily commute.
I want to leave you, the listener, with a challenge. Look at the layers of your own life. Where is your moat weak? Are you relying on the comfort of System 1 thinking, just accepting the narratives handed to you instead of demanding WaF, truth as foundation?
And consider this final, totally provocative thought. If the universe, at its absolute core layer of NKE, truly is just structure touching structure in an endless recursive loop.
Wait, I said no ellipses. Let's rephrase that.
Yeah.
If it is just structure touching structure in a recursive loop,
Then every single time you learn a new physical skill, every time you build a piece of your moat and alter your personal reality, are you actually fundamentally reshaping the physical universe itself?
wow, think about the pixels. Think about the grand architecture. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. We'll see you next time.